Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Chad, and I come to you with kind of like sad news. Recently, we all know Gears of War was kind of released, and with Gears of War being released, we come to find out that it's a more competitive game based on your own abilities, not necessarily your team's abilities, but your abilities in wall bouncing, pop shotting, active reloading, aiming, which is something some people forget about, and just the ability to think on your feet. And, well, with this, we see people starting to trash talk more and more. Now, I'm guilty of it myself. When I see someone doing bad, I will basically unload on them because I don't want to lose because one of my teammates can't hold his own weight. I can't carry that team weight. Team weight, I guess. He's taking up our lives in team deathmatch. He's screwing up the captures in King of the Hill. He sometimes is the leader and capture the leader and just is stupid, etc., etc., etc. And I've noticed even between friends we start, trash talking each other. And this is fine. It happens. And to be honest, it's over the internet, so we all go a bit crazy. But recently I've had a friend who we're normally at odds, but opposites attract. So we've always been kind of like close friends ever since the Gauch community tournament, and we were gonna do a podcast, etc., etc. And recently he's been joining my parties, obviously, because he's a good friend of mine, and we've disagreed on a lot of things. And it's not just because we live on different sides of the country. I mean, California here, it's more lax, more liberal. And in Florida, I'd expect it to be the same, but the way he was brought up, I'd assume not. And I basically, when 9/11's anniversary came around, I basically said to him that we, I guess, over-publicized the event, and that, yes, it was terrible, but we shouldn't stop the whole world and say, hey, look at us. And, he was opposed to that. He has the right to be opposed. But the problem is he didn't see my side of things. Now, I see his side, It was pretty terrible. But what he doesn't know is it happens every day, to different countries. Same events, more or worse. Now, after this event, it was like, okay, yeah, we had a disagreement. Most people disagree with me on the 9/11 stuff because my opinion's a bit less mainstream. I mean, it's a more practical opinion. But of course I'm more biased towards that. But it's not the mainstream, so of course he disagreed with it. He's a kid that grew up, and I'm gonna do this with air quotes, regular American, which basically means he goes to church, he goes to a public school, his parents enforce all these things on him, etc., etc., etc. And I'm not the norm, so I have different views than him. And then, he's been popping in at parties. We've been fine. And recently he joined today. And, relating back to the topic, everyone seems tougher over the internet. Now, that's because there's a wall. There's a digital wall. You can't reach out and punch people over the internet. Now, of course, so the internet's more of an intellectual place, where people with the ability to speak, or the ability to troll, you have to have intellect for both, often win in arguments. Now, it's either you have the intellect or you have the ignorance to win arguments. Now, this guy, he considers he's a good YouTuber, and I love his channel. He considers himself a Latino. Okay, that's your race. All right. But what he doesn't understand is that he lives in America. He makes fun of Americans. He calls me like, oh, dumb fat American, blah blah blah. Of course, he uses a bunch of profanity, but I choose not to use profanity on my channel for various reasons, and etc. And I just tell him, you live in America, right? You have a U.S. citizenship, you're not illegal, and you're an American citizen. You are considered American. So, no, I'm a Latino. I'm like, hey, you're a whitewashed Americanized Latino. That's what we call them. You're Americanized, you're whitewashed. And he seemed to take that as I called him white. Now, one, I don't think there's much offense in that. Because you could just basically, tell me, oh no, dude, I'm not white. Please, I'm not white. Please don't call me that. Because it's not like it's a slur. It's not like I'm calling, dropping the N-word on you or anything. I said you were whitewashed. And he really seemed to go off on me. Like, he thinks I'm insulting him by calling him whitewashed. I'm like, no, that just means you've been raised around American culture, man. It's not anything to be ashamed of. I mean, you live in this country. You've been raised in this country. And most likely, I don't know this, obviously, most likely he's been born in this country. His parents immigrated over, and, they got their citizenships. you know, and they gave birth to him. He's technically an American citizen from birth. But you know, we come to all this, and then suddenly he goes on about you know, ADHD, etc., etc., etc. I'm not even gonna get into that till later. But then you know, I'm like, I'm talking to another friend of the party, and I'm like, yeah, you know, because I owe one of my friends $10, because you know, he gave me a ride out, you know, so I owe him gas money. And I told him, you know, I gave him some money to help me, you know, blah blah blah, and so I owe him $10. I told him, yeah, I have to get some money from my parents. You know, I don't have that much, and that's fine, because I'm out of a job right now. I don't have a job. It's hard to get a job in this economy. It's hard to get a job in California. Really strapped in California. And he proceeds to make the comment, "You still ask money for money from your parents?" Well, of course. I'm not 18 yet. I mean, I can't find a job. I'm a teenager. I'm still in high school. There's no way I can find a job. I mean, especially with the job market like this, people hire adults who can, you know, have any hours they want. You know, like the employer looks at the guys. You have a teenager who can only work part-time 3 days a week or 4 days a week. And you have the adult that can work any hours, any amount of days. He's gonna take the adult. There's no reason not to. As an employer, I would take the adult. And so yes, I do ask money from my parents. I do work around the house. I do yard work. I help them out, and they toss me some money. That's fine. And he seemed to look down on me, and I just said, yeah, we're kind of strapped for cash right now. You know, my dad used to make a pretty good pay, but he got a couple pay cuts. You know, my mom doesn't work. We're in a pretty tight spot right now, as is everyone else in America right now. He's like, you think you're in a tight spot? And of course, he couldn't seem to keep his voice down. He had to raise his voice, and I kept my voice about this level, with fluctuations, of course, to make points. And he just seemed to raise his voice, and you know, and he's screaming at me like, oh, my mom has this growth in her back, and like they can't remove it because it's pinching a nerve, and if they remove it, it's gonna grow back even harder, pinching the nerve even harder. She's in bed 24/7. I'm like, okay, my mom doesn't work. We're kind of in the same boat. I mean, we have a single parent working. We're both in tough. I'm not trying to make comparisons, man. I'm just saying, America's in tough times right now. And he's all like, yeah, my dad makes less money than your dad. He works a $15 a month, or $15, yeah, he actually said month. He said $15 a day job, hour job, blah, blah, blah. He honestly was screwing up his words the whole time he was saying this. And I stumble and I stutter. It's just, I don't have speech impediments. It's just when I'm trying to argue with somebody who's raising their voice, it does get pretty hard. And so I start choking on some of my words, which happens. It happens to all of us. And it's just, it really bugged me. I mean, once again, why do people think they're so tough with the internet? I mean, the guy's pretty chill. We were good friends for a while. We played in the Yoush community tournament. I mean, oh no, we didn't play in the Yoush community tournament. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. We played in a community tournament hosted by one of G-Money, yeah. It was G-Money, and, well, we still played in a community tournament together, and, you know, it just kind of bugs me how it turned out like this. I mean, so he wants to start a competition about whose life is worse, money-wise, and I don't want that. I just said everyone's in tough times right now, you know, I still have to ask money from my parents, I don't have a job, and he goes, oh, I can find a job, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, good for you. You live on the other side of the United States. I mean, California's pretty packed. We have a lot of people here. You know, we don't have many jobs to go around. And then he proceeds to, you know, talk about ADHD and all that. And then somehow he links it to, you know, God and his beliefs. And I just, you know, I'm not a very religious man. So, you know, at that point I'm just like, dude, come on. I don't want to get into this argument, but you know, the problem with some people is the ignorant ones just want to argue for days, and that's what sucks. But I'll have to continue this story in my next commentary. I think I'm just gonna do this right after another, or, you know, right one after another. Please like, comment. I'm sorry for the length. I just wanted to get this all out because I've been noticing this trend, and it's kind of sad. Please subscribe, and you know what, you should all have a nice day, and remember that arguments aren't started by two people. They're started by one person who lets their day or their life affect them, and they want to affect others with it. They're malicious about it, and just try to be that positive person, you know, always be that positive person. Thanks, guys.